You don't have to know how to make a movie. If you truly love cinema with all your heart and with enough passion, then you can't help but make a good movie.
Hey, welcome to CC Talk Talk, a podcast where we see and talk about life and its stories through games, books, songs, but mostly movies. We'll geek out about the stories we love and hate, delving into what makes them great. Sometimes we'll talk about the industry as a whole, all its blessings and woes. Other times we do reviews, maybe even cover some news. We are no experts on films, but we're super passionate and have the heart to feel. So stay a while and listen, maybe join in the conversation. You can find us on most social media platforms and nearly everywhere podcasts are found. I'm Jovilo, and here we go. So today's our first episode ever. I hope the rhyme makes up for my extremely monotone voice. Apologies for the quality because the mic is on the way. We will get there. Just really want to start things because I run a indie private cinema in Damansara in Malaysia, and I've had conversations about films with a lot of people, and it's really sad that sometimes these conversations are not heard and no one's talking about it. It really should be shared because there are so many people who are passionate about movies and the industry. So I really felt like this is something we really wanted to do. Apologies for the quality again, and if we swear a little bit, well, we're just going to express ourselves okay. So we are unscripted, meaning we are not professionals at this, no experience. We just really feel like this should be shared, and it's conversations worth having. So to start things off, today with me, he used to be a customer, then he became a regular, and now he's a friend. He's Delton.
Howdy do.
I met him because he came to my indie cinema one day, and well, the best way I can describe him is that he watches more hours of movies than he has in his life. He has an entire library of movies in his head, and he can recall scenes very accurately. He is a cinephile, probably more of the most cinephile person I've ever known, definitely more than me. I picked up a lot of movies from him and know-how of the industry. So yeah, he will be joining me today in this episode as we try to start things on the right foot. So, Dalton, I think today it's a good way for people, because we're going to talk about movies, right? And when we discuss about movies, I think it's good that people have a certain context of where we are coming from. Our tastes, our influences matters because, movies, stories, books, games, they're all subjective at the end of the day, right? Mm-hmm. I've talked to you about this so much during our time the last 2 years, and one thing is very important to know is that why you like something and maybe how you started liking something really matters, because something that is nice, maybe a movie that is great to someone, can be really horrible to another. So I think it's a great way to provide our you listeners, there are any some context on where we are coming from, especially when we are reviewing or critiquing or maybe just loving a movie. Sometimes you might disagree, we might disagree with you, but hey, it's all subjective at the end of the day, right? But there are some really bad movies.
Yeah. More than I can count.
So I think to just get things going, after like 4 minutes, I think Dalton, I will just bring you in. Maybe share with us top 3 favorite movies. I know it's really hard. I just had this question asked recently. Yeah, top 3. Maybe with a why. It doesn't have to be your favorite, but maybe just your top 3 movies for a certain reason. Maybe it changed the way you think, or your favorite childhood movie. It could be just like Power Rangers.
Maybe I can talk about 3 movies that actually influenced me, at least on my taste growing up. Obviously, the first movie that I remember watching was Jaws, and that left a big impact on my childhood. I was 4 or 5 years old the first time I saw it, and at first I was thinking this is like some sort of B-grade horror movie. At first, I didn't really know the impact it had among, the mass consensus at the time.
Yeah.
But, as time grew on, I found myself more enthralled by it. It had something, I realized later it had a very large rewatchable factor. And I just got into it, I wanted to know what is this, it's like a book but it's in audio and visual form.
You watched it in the cinemas?
No. I watched it on TV. Back then it came out on Astro. Not Astro. Astro didn't come out at the time, but you know, at TV1, TV2, they would show classic movies sometimes.
So even at a young age, it caught your attention?
Yeah, it caught my attention because it was like, you don't, it's not every day you see like a shark jump onto a boat.
Yeah.
So
That's back then.
And back then, and you know, Steven Spielberg, he was what, 29, 30 when he made the movie. So it's like, I didn't know who directed it at the time. I was like, wow, it's a shark, and you know, 3 guys are trying to stop it. One's a cop, one's a scientist, and one's a sailor. And I get that the scientist was very smart. His tactics failed. The sailor was a little bit too rough. He failed too. So the cop, who was inexperienced, like, even if you didn't really understand the words that they were saying, because I was like 4 at the time, I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, and he used the best of both. There was a balance, and you know, he used it to outwit the shark.
I'm gonna make you take one step further. Like, I'm gonna ask you, how did you watch it? Like, as a 4-year-old. Yeah. I'm pretty sure you were not the one who clicked on the channel and selected Jaws to watch. So like, was it your dad or
My dad.
brother, or by accident?
My dad. I can say that because of him, I love movies.
Okay.
You know, he used to watch all these classic Western movies back in the day. Those with, especially Clint Eastwood. Like, he was a big Clint Eastwood fan. And also sometimes John Wayne. He's not too big on John Wayne as other Western fans, but yeah, Gary Cooper, James Stewart, all the old guard, like, you know, those
names that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
I'll just be very honest.
way before anyone's time. So yeah, I started watching those. Like, I mean, right after Jaws, I remember watching, you know, John Wayne and Gary Cooper, High Noon, those kind of stuff. Then he basically wrote me into it every Saturday, Sunday, every weekday afternoon. Like, we would just sit down and watch whatever was on TV too. Yeah. And then, and this is going to be a little bit funny, but after Westerns came the action movie crowd.
Yeah.
So we're talking about...
I think everyone had that moment.
Yeah, everybody
during
had
the 90s.
when I was like growing up in kindergarten, that's when the whole like old school action stuff now came on, like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Willis. That's how it first got on.
The action movies of the 90s were the Marvel movies of today. Right? They were the blockbusters, the movies that everyone would flock to.
They were huge.
Yeah.
They were huge. I mean, they made hundreds of millions of dollars. You know, the big ones, especially with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So they were like larger than life personalities, and even they like clashed outside of the set.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know whether it was all for
I guess
a big
today
show.
a good comparison for the younger listeners would be Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh my God, what a comparison!
Yeah, because The Rock and who was the guy who played Dom in Fast and Furious? Yeah, Vin Diesel. They didn't get along. Action movie stars didn't get along. But okay, anyway, yeah. How about your second movie then?
Okay. Like the second, I was gonna get there because I mentioned old school action stars. The second movie that really influenced my taste was Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And I am a big fan of Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Yeah. Forget the rest, especially the recent one. But Terminator 2, that was the one I said, this is a perfect story. This is like perfectly structured. I cannot put my finger on it. Like, it's similar to Jaws in a way, but the build-up is way more intense. Okay. Like, there's a craft to it. Like, he places the pieces. Like James Cameron, the director, he puts the pieces at the beginning. He sets it up. And then he basically brings the audience on this journey. And by the middle of it, you're hooked because all these pieces are aligned together very nicely. It's going in a straight flow. Yeah. You know, you understand what's going on. You understand the characters. Everything's set up.
Even though it's sci-fi, and back then it was quite groundbreaking,
yeah,
you still could make sense of what he was trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a clear narrative. You know, nothing's convoluted, and yet you know that there's a stake, which is so intense. It's so thrilling. Back then, when I saw it when I was 5 or 6 years old, that really blew my mind. And I know it's.
Wait, you saw it when you were 5 or 6 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Because here I am listening to this. I mean, I've talked to Delton about this before, and I always just thought that he watched it when he was a teenager, like 18 or something.
Oh no! I saw Terminator when I was
sure. Okay. Wow, to watch that.
To bring you back further, because my dad loved watching all these like supposedly R-rated, 18-rated action movies that they're too violent, they're not supposed to be shown to younger children. So I asked him one time, we were watching one of Arnold's movies, Commando, and then he was basically shooting everybody with a large machine gun and M60. Then I asked him, why is everybody dying? And my dad just simply said, because they were all bad.
Sure.
So, back then there was no gray line, there was
Correct.
no, moral complex in movies. It was all good and bad, and all the bad must die. That's that, like a video game.
And very likely they are probably Vietnamese soldiers. I guess. I mean,
no, that was like Latin American soldiers, but that's a different kind of stereotype.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I guess there's 1, 2, and probably the third one, if you have to say one.
The third one, this was in high school. The third one, that was the one that really pushed me into like serious serious kind of movie appreciation. Like back then, you could say Jaws, you could say Terminator. They're very like, what's the word for it? Populist.
Yeah.
They're very mainstream, and I was with that crowd for a while. Like back in high school, like cartoons, anime, those were big. But one day I just decided to go out on a whim and try something a little bit outside of the norm.
In high school?
In high school.
Wow,
and this
okay.
was, I remember this was during PMR days. Back then PMR, I was like, 15 years old.
Wow.
And it was 2001: A Space Odyssey.
And
that
that
really,
age, okay.
And that really blew my mind, because I didn't really understand what the hell was going on, to be honest with you, at the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
But something about it kept making me go back. Like, you could say the same for Jaws and Terminator 2, but this one is like, I want to know more. What is going on here? What is there's a hypnotic effect to it.
Yeah.
There's a very strong pull
Yep.
that Stanley Kubrick pulls towards you. He basically puts you in a spell. It's like no words, no dialogue, just images. You can get the gist of what's going on, but yet you're like, I want the mystery to continue. I don't really want to know, or no, not really want to. I don't really want it explained to me, but I want to see. I want to feel more of it.
Holy shit, dude! This at the PMR age,
Yeah.
And okay, how many times have you went back to explore 2001: Space Odyssey since
I
then?
lost count.
Okay, then maybe
I bought the DVD
a better
out.
question would be, at what age, or roughly how many times you've watched it, where you finally felt like you might have a stronger grasp at what he's trying to portray? I know what the movie is. I know it's really a subjective, crazy art film that probably has no direct meaning. But probably at what age that you felt that you had an idea or an understanding of what he might have been trying to say with the show?
That would probably be when I was in the SPM time during
What,
just
that's
2
only
years
2
later.
years later?
Yeah. It was
Okay.
like that. Like I said, that opened the floodgates for me to watch more serious stuff. So
Okay.
I explored all of whatever I can get on for Stanley Kubrick's works. I explored Coen Brothers. I explored Martin Scorsese.
My God, at that age.
Yeah, it was like wow. Like, I don't know the word. Quentin Tarantino, Pulp Fiction. My friend recommended it to me while I was in this phase, and I just watched all of his films since, like, until SPM came.
I watched Pulp Fiction last year, dude. Okay, that's great.
Yeah. So I had this like it got my addiction to all these movies. I mean, good, bad, doesn't matter. My addiction became so heightened to the fact that I actually saved up recess money, and I would just, like, whatever I had, I would go to a DVD store, pirated or original, doesn't matter. I would just buy whatever I feel interests me, especially if it's coming from one of the directors I'm interested in.
My God, dude. You to explain it to you, at Form 5 or Form 3 during PMR and SPM, I was probably looking forward to the next Power Rangers movie that I could get my hands on. Okay, it's just crazy that you watch all these films
If it makes
at
you
such
feel,
a young age. It's just amazing.
if it makes you feel better, around the same time I was still watching the Pokemon anime.
It's great, and you can't deny it. Some of them are actually really good.
Yeah.
It's just cartoon.
Yeah. But again, also one more thing that spearheaded Space Odyssey, like the philosophy of Space Odyssey for me, was indirectly thanks to Neon Genesis Evangelion.
But even at that age, still at that
Because I have a friend. I have a friend who is to anime what I am to movies. So
Okay,
he pushed.
yeah,
so we
yeah.
basically recommended stuff to each other all the time. So he would push really good animes to me, and I would push really good movies to him, and we sort of have this like amalgamation of sort of like a film anime appreciation culture around me and my friends.
We'll do an episode on Evangelion because I know that it's one anime series that as you grow older and you realize what the artist was going through behind the scenes, the whole perception of the show just changes. So that is a story for another day.
That is a rabbit hole that
Yes.
needs an episode by itself.
Yeah, so many articles out there. So okay, I'm gonna share what my top 3 are.
Right.
It's gonna be a far cry from what he just shared in terms of quality films.
No. Again, like you said, it's subjective.
Yeah.
Everybody has their
I
own
guess so.
reasons that impacts them, right?
So I guess if you want to follow chronologically, like what he did, I guess the first movie that probably had a really strong impact on me. I mean, I can't even say for sure that at the age before my teenage years, I don't think I watched movies like how they're supposed to feel, especially like what Dalton has expressed. Because for me, when I was that young, it was just like for fun, and it's just pure entertainment to me back then. But I guess that one show that maybe sort of planted the seed for me to grow and appreciate more will probably be Toy Story. I think
good movie.
yeah. Aside that it's an animation, right? The story there and the values that they share is just amazing. And I think even at such a young age, before I could even understand about life, I think when Dalton was watching Space Odyssey, all I cared about was like the cheat code to get my Sims character more money to build a house. I'm not even joking about this. So I mean, I guess even at the age when I couldn't comprehend the meaning of life and sci-fi concepts, Toy Story hit a note with me. And like today, if I ever think back on why I still haven't thrown certain toys in my room, it's because of Toy Story. And sometimes when I even have to pack them up because it's collecting dust and all that, I actually look at my toys and still feel like, oh man, they're gonna hate me if I put them in a box in the storage. It's because of Toy Story. So it really had a lasting impact on me with Toy Story.
That really did happen though in the third movie. So.
Yeah, you see? So it really scarred me. Like, I just cannot explain that my attachment to certain toys that I have is really strong because of Toy Story. Genuinely, it's because of Toy Story. Yeah, I guess the second movie, I mentioned this in another podcast I did with the Ming Ting and their Blank Slate show, but I never go into detail why, will be Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this one, yes, I can. Yes, now I can. I feel like I'm at a level with Dalton right now. I think that the Fellowship of the Rings came out during from 4 or from 5. I can't remember the years and all, but yeah, you can Google that. But I remember very strongly because that year, SPM is a really big exam, right? You're supposed to enter college and university after that. And I was really bad at my studies. I could only get an A for my maths because A, I'm Chinese. I couldn't really get anything. I was failing quite a lot. And then my parents were really worried because I can pass maths and that's about it. Even my English was a C or B at best. Yeah. So until one day, my friend got really hyped up about this movie called Lord of the Rings. I had no idea what is it about. I went to watch with him in the cinemas, and it just, holy shit, it blew my mind. And I remember very, 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 very strongly that when I stepped out of the hall talking to myself, I said that if this came from a book, I'm going to start reading books. And that just set me off. I started reading books. First book I really fell in love with is Animorphs. It's a sci-fi book about alien invasion and teenagers changing into animals to fight back. It's going to be a series soon. Yeah, it's actually really good for like YA stories. And since then, I started picking up reading and writing. And hey, right now I'm a writer. So you can see that how much Lord of the Rings has influenced me. I read almost exclusively sci-fi and fantasy. That's it. I tried reading other type of books. It's not for me. So yeah, Lord of the Rings really changed my absorption of stories and media.
Which movie was that you saw, the first one?
Fellowship of the Rings.
Fellowship of the Rings.
Yeah.
Wow, you started from the get-go.
Yeah, Fellowship of the Rings just blew my mind because like I said before, these movies for me was just pure entertainment, explosions. Then suddenly Fellowship of the Rings, half the movie was just them getting from the Shire to the Elven Forest. I'm sorry if you're a fan and you hate that I don't know the name, but I can't remember the name of the forest. But I know the details. And yeah, I've never watched a movie that talks so much, moves at such a slow pace, and I love every moment of it.
I didn't think it was slow paced at all actually. It's like there's a lot of dialogue, but all of it is involving.
Yeah,
like
engaging.
Yeah, it's engaging.
You really get lost in the world that Tolkien created. Peter Jackson's adaptation was just amazing. And then I remember back to back, right? The movies came out every Christmas.
Yeah.
And then the next year, Two Towers came out, and that was more on the action
Oh yeah, that
side
was
of
the
things.
action pack.
Holy shit, the Helm's Deep action sequence when the Uruk-hai marched up to the gates and then they were like shouting and the rain started pouring. See, I can't remember the names, but I can remember the
You
details.
remember the sequence?
Yeah, and
That's something very hard to get rid of, if it left an impact on you.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily remember the details, but you do remember the pattern of it.
Yeah. I can remember that even when the Uruk-hai's that's the name I remember. When the Uruk-hai's marched up and then Theoden stands there and says in a really mocking way like, "This is all you have, Saruman." And I was like, whoa, what is this? What is this? Yeah, and it just really left an impact. And then the explosion on the Helm's Deep, the wall of Helm's Deep, it's just crazy. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, man. I think I watched it another 4 more times later.
This is where you got me beat, because Lord of the Rings, okay, I never really got into Lord of the Rings until near the end of my high school time. Yeah, because I'm more of from my taste, I'm more of a classic, maybe personally neo-noir kind of guy.
It's totally different.
So my friend was the same person who actually recommended me Pulp Fiction, by the way. So he told me to get my ass to the television just to see Lord of the Rings. I'm like, okay. I never really had the time until I bought the extended edition DVDs from Thailand. So that's why it was on a discount.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Just buy it. And at first I thought, okay, I'm just gonna see the first half and then save it for later. I ended up finishing the trilogy in less than 2 days. The extended trilogy.
That's why I always say that you watch more movies than you have hours in your life for.
I know, but
that's just like
that was one of the few instances I actually regretted not watching this in the cinema, because such a great. I don't consider them 3 movies. I consider all of them together as one movie.
I think
excellent.
Now that you said that, I think this is the first time I ever said this to you. Or actually, this is the first time that I recall this in such a long time. I think when I watched Two Towers in the cinemas, that was probably the first time during the Helm's Deep battle I actually had a moment where I paused and I just looked around me in the cinema and everyone was just stunned and in awe of what they were watching. And this is the first time I realized like the power of cinema.
Yes.
That was the first time I think I really
they were
felt
awestruck. They were like swept up in the
100%.
That's the power of good cinema. Same thing happened to me with the 3 movies I mentioned. Same thing happened with you with Lord of the Rings, especially. Well, of course, Return of the King is the best segment of it. No denying that.
So moving on to my third one, and oh my god, it's already so much time. See, that's why I say we're not professionals. We need to time this better. But it's okay. The third one, I guess, will be the movie that really opened my eyes to what movies can be. I've talked to Dalton a lot of times about this, and it's The Prestige, Christopher Nolan's The Prestige. Okay. I can remember very strongly that I had no idea what is it about. I had no idea who Nolan was back then. I think I was in college, maybe 22 or 23, I really can't remember. But it was in my little room, my dorm room. And I was like, because I like Scarlett Johansson, I like her voice. And then I was like, yeah, sure, she's in this movie called The Prestige, and Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman was a thing back then. So I just plug it in and I watch it. I never watched a plot twist movie or like a plot driven movie before. Okay. Never. Maybe I did, but like I said, I wasn't there at a level where I could appreciate them yet. So Prestige just blew my mind, especially when at the ending, when they reveal that what Michael Caine narrated at the beginning about the Prestige, the magic trick has 3 steps. And then when it came to my mind how that beginning has wrapped up the whole movie, it was all there for you to see, but you just didn't know until the end when it was revealed. Holy shit, I remember on my bed, on my crappy laptop back then, on my really bad headphones back then, and I was just, when the movie ended, I didn't move. Yeah, I was like, what? and back then there's no internet to Google what happened, there's no YouTubers to talk about the movie. Oh my god, that was the movie that really showed me that movies can be so much more than just entertainment and glorious epics. It could just be about 2 men trying to outmuscle each another in a very extraordinary way.
the whole movie was a magic trick.
Yeah.
You know,
Literally
a magic trick.
a
Sleight
magic
of hand.
trick. Yeah.
You fell for it, but you enjoyed the ride.
Yeah.
That's what cinema is all about.
Oh my god! And to explain that to people who don't get it, oh my gosh! like what Delton said, it's a magic trick. Not just the story itself, but the movie itself as a movie was a magic trick. Oh, it's just amazing. So. Yeah.
That was the first time, after The Prestige and Batman Begins, which came out when I was in high school, and then The Dark Knight, that was when, people, like at least my age, started talking about movie directors more often.
Yeah,
Nolan kept coming up after this, of course, Prestige is a pretty good film, actually very good film, in fact. But, The Dark Knight, that was...
Oh, now that you brought up The Dark Knight, that Dark Knight was the first movie I went back twice to the cinemas for. I've never done it before. I wanted to do it for Lord of the Rings, but back then, tight on budget, in high
3
school.
hours,
Yeah. But The Dark Knight, I had to do it twice in the cinemas. Man.
Yeah, you couldn't believe what you were seeing,
shit,
right?
man. But I guess a lot of it was Heath Ledger rocking it as the Joker.
Yeah, of course. We're not taking anything away from the rest of the cast.
Of course.
Heath Ledger was excellent. But it's not just Heath Ledger, it's also Nolan's hand in the story, in the directing.
Yeah.
Like he's telling an actual tragedy.
Yeah.
He's not just telling something straight out of a comic book.
Correct.
He's adapting it and he's making it cinematic.
Yes. Especially the ending when you have to decide between the two boats. In a lot of superhero movies, the end bit will be a huge action set piece. But Nolan was like, screw that. We're just going to have two people deciding whether to bomb each other, and that's it.
A morality play.
Yeah. And the bomb doesn't even explode. It's an action movie, a superhero action movie. There's no explosions. Oh my god. Yeah. But okay, that's also another conversation for another time. Because I think we can go a full episode just talking about Nolan and probably just The Dark Knight. But yeah, another thing that I forgot to share earlier is that Delton studied in America, right? Yeah. And he was there to experience the Chicago movie scene, which is the grassroots of quite a lot of American cinema. So I was thinking that maybe it's a really good time for him to share about his experience there, about Americans, how they behave with cinema just around the corner. It's not like in Malaysia where we take it as a entertainment or like a weekend family outing or a date night. Over there, they really breathe and they bleed cinema, right? Yeah. So I think it will be really interesting that Delton can share with us a little bit.
Well, like you said, Chicago is a place like that full of movie lovers. It's also a place that has quite a lot of filmmakers as well, storytellers, people who aspire to not necessarily act in the movie but also write, direct their own stuff. And there's plenty of reputed, say, film schools within the area. So sometimes we'll be competing to see which area would get would be, how do you say that, secured for filming.
And I think it's more driven and more motivated. The people there, they really live it because, I mean, being in America, you have the opportunity, you actually have a real opportunity to make it big, right? So,
I mean, the film industry in America, of course, arguably still is the biggest in the world. Not the amount of movies that come out, but the craft of it. America is still number one. And Chicago, as of late, I think it wasn't really that popular of a filming location and as, like, say, a setting of a film until the 80s onwards. Before that, it was like, Chicago, just like any other stuff. People would any other big city. Like most Hollywood studios would prefer to film in either New York or Los Angeles. Of course, that's where the cinema boom would be, But I think after the 80s, especially, I think the 70s, especially after the Blues Brothers came out, Chicago just boomed up as a filmmaking hub.
Jazz also, right?
Jazz was always part of Chicago's blood. You cannot walk on the streets of Chicago without hearing a nice classic jazz tune coming out from one of the bars. That was something I experienced, and I cherish it because it's not just a movie city; it's also a music city. And by music, I mean jazz.
It's really cultured there.
Old school. It's very old school. It's not the kind of modern day hotel lounge jazz you would usually hear. I mean, no disrespect to all the modern day jazz people,
No.
But I've heard some good ones myself. But I've always preferred the old school big band kind of jazz. And Chicago had a lot of those, like those speakeasy bars during the Prohibition days. Those were retrofitted into modern bars.
Yeah.
People still go there. People still enjoy the ambience. They enjoy the atmosphere. I think that's what makes Chicago a character of its own. That's what, in a way, attracted filmmakers to come and film in their city. So
Because they're appreciated and people there support their work.
Yeah.
And all that.
Like you say, The Dark Knight, that was filmed in Chicago. Like Gotham City, Chicago was doubling for Gotham City. So that a lot of Chicago landmarks that I personally witnessed, like, okay, this was in The Dark Knight, this was in The Dark Knight, this was in The Dark Knight. But there's also a lot of other movies also, like The Fugitive and Man of Steel. Yeah, that was filmed in Chicago.
Okay.
So Metropolis, Chicago doubled as Metropolis as well.
Right.
But then again, it's always been a movie-centric city. There's a lot of up-and-coming, say, actors, writers, directors coming from Chicago. Usually they will come from all these acting clubs, comedy clubs. Like, I'm not sure whether you've heard of this, but you've heard of Second City Comedy Club?
No.
A lot of talent come from there. Tina Fey came from there. Steve Carell also did a stint from there. And, look where they are now. Even my university, I'm not sure whether you heard of this actor, John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
I believe he did a stint in DePaul University as well, and now he's Wreck-It Ralph.
Power.
And an Oscar nominee, if I'm not mistaken.
And I remember that you told me once that you were part of the Chicago Film Festival.
That was a small part. That was just me volunteering.
Yeah, but still, you were there to experience the crowd, how they behave. I mean, because this is something really alien to like me who have not experienced film festivals, especially overseas film festivals, which is entirely different from.
That's a different ballgame.
Yeah, because these people, they really treat their art form as something they need to do. It's not something. It's not something for money or what. They just need to do it to express themselves, right? So I mean, you were there to see these people really go full on, and just how.
So I volunteered. I mean, like what Joey said, I volunteered for the Chicago International Film Festival in October 2014, and I got possibly one of the biggest culture shocks I've had. In a good way.
In a
good way. Because like before then, I'm like, I watch a lot of movies. I watch in art house theaters. I watch in mainstream theaters. It makes no difference to me. Movies are movies. But that's the film festival. That's a completely different ballgame. You get to see like a large variety of different crowds for different movies. And that's when I realized Chicago is a city that's thriving with film lovers in general. Like even for obscure films from obscure
student work maybe.
Not student work. It's like an international films that normally would never see the light of day, like international distribution and everything. They get shown there they get shown in the film festival very prominently, and the audience is diverse. But at the same time, you can see that they have taste. Like, they're not the pretentious kind. Not necessarily. They're the kind who just simply likes good movies. They will watch it with an open mind.
Even if it's bad, so it's like it's just part of.
It's subjective. Whether it's an Israeli film, whether it's an LGBT film, whether it's an African film. I forgot which country exactly, but I saw this African film called Timbuktu, which is a very haunting movie about the effects of how do I say it? Basically Somali insurgents, not Somali, the African insurgents, just basically terrorizing a village, and how the cycle of violence keeps going around in a circle. That was one of the best films I saw that year, and it got nominated for an Oscar.
Wow.
So
and when you watch it during the festival, of course you had no idea how far it would go.
All I knew is that was an excellent film I just saw. I mean I cannot speak for how the Academy judges their films, but most of the films that got the biggest audience responses there usually will get an Oscar nomination. Like that year, and this was before the Oscar nominations came out, that year the films that got the biggest response that I saw was Whiplash, Birdman, and The Imitation Game.
all went to
critical acclaim. Look at them now, Whiplash, J.K. Simmons. What an amazing performance. I've never seen the audience just erupted at the end of the screening.
Also another episode for that. Just for us to just full on love Whiplash all the way. We probably do a breakdown scene to see why we love Whiplash. Maybe something like that. We see how it goes.
And speaking of the highbrow film cinema, not just Chicago Film Festival, because that's held in a mainstream hall, but the real indie art house hall, the modern one, I've been to this cinema called the Gene Siskel Film Center.
I think I heard of it.
Yeah, before. Gene Siskel. Actually, Chicago, one more thing that is famous for, 2 film critics, very very well known in America back in the day. One is Gene Siskel, one is Roger Ebert, and Roger Ebert is the critic I listen to this day, even if I have some disagreements with some of the films that he's talking about. But he is the one with the highest standard of film that I know of.
If you guys are wondering, if you only check Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb scores, I'm going to do you a favor like what Delton did to me, which is introduced to me the Roger Ebert website. If you're looking for movie reviews, it's really, really good. They don't just review the movie like, oh, it's a beautiful movie to watch, oh, it's a well shot movie. No, they actually talk about how the movie reflects life. And it's just great, and it's just amazing how you can see certain movies from different points of view.
His reviews, basically, he's taking his own experiences, his own life experiences, and using it to compare with the movie, which is an admirable feat. Not many critics do that.
And he does it very objectively too. Because even though if he never experienced it, he will say it in a very understandable way that he just explained his thoughts. It's really great. But just a note is that he has passed away.
Yes, he's
and the website is being run by a team. So
that he approved of.
Yes. But I'll just say that different team members has different opinions because some of them, their reviews are like, whoa, I don't get it.
Take them with a pinch of salt, but all of them you can see where they're coming from. All of the reviews. Like he didn't handpick them for nothing.
They have their reasonings for so and so.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Back to your Siskel and Ebert. They were like the top film critics in America, if not Chicago, at the time. So of course the Gene Siskel Film Center opened in memory of Gene Siskel, who passed away, I think, sometime before the film center opened. So they show just exclusively art house independent films. No mainstream
there
films.
There are things like that in America for sure. Especially in Europe.
They do. Even Chicago, like other parts of Chicago, they do show that. Like the Music Box, I'm not sure. That's the real old school movie theater. The ones that you get to experience how people back in the 50s and 60s would watch a movie. That's one of the few theaters left, classic movie theaters left untouched. So that Music Box theater shows indie cinemas as well. But Gene Siskel Film Center, another level of its own. Really, they curate their films extremely well. Even there's another movie I saw over there. I didn't expect that they would show this movie, but it's a Singaporean movie called Ilo Ilo, which is an excellent.
They showed a Singaporean movie. This was back in
2013.
Wow. Okay, it's impressive.
So then the audience was into it. They really enjoyed the film. At first they were like with the
curator, man, whoever that curated the movies went around the world. I mean, they had to, right? Either they went around the world or they had connections to make them watch all these international movies. Oh my god, there's so many movies out there.
Just a window to the world. Cinemas. These cinemas in Chicago, whereas here is a windows to computer processors.
Or what the powers above say that you can watch. That's also another conversation that we will get into.
Coming soon.
Because
giving mini teasers.
Running a private cinema and dealing with Malaysian audiences has been very fun, I would say.
Can we have like an episode just strictly on Badang in Cicak, man?
So we're already almost at not almost, but 20 minutes to the hour mark. Things are going better than I expected it to be. If you are at this point wondering if you're wearing pants for some reason, I'm thinking about this. Yes, we are wearing pants in this. So okay, I came up with a list of other things that could be fun for us to do other than just sharing our top favorites. I think maybe we can share what is that one movie that we really hate. Like you really despise that movie.
You're asking the wrong person, because even there's some terrible movies which I actually enjoy in an ironic way. The thing is, most movie audiences here don't understand irony, so they just want to avoid it as much as they possibly can.
Well, okay, let's say if you have to pick one movie that you will not recommend anyone, or when you just think about it, you just like, oh god, I'm not gonna think about it. I'm just gonna bypass it. Or like in Inside Out,
Right.
Inside Out, where the characters in your brain actually takes that little memory bubble and throws it away. The first movie where your mini Inside Out characters were just like, oh god, this movie, and they throw it aside. If you need some time to think, then I'll just go first maybe.
You go.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I watched too many to count.
I think if any one of you, maybe my friends, has talked to me, you will know that for me it will be Batman vs Superman. I really hate that movie.
Wow.
I mean, okay, to be fair, it's not the worst movie, but because of the marketing hype, because of what it was meant to be, because at that time Marvel was peaking and DC Warner Brothers was supposed to mount this great comic book rivalry challenge, and Man of Steel was above average. I know some people really love it. I found it above average. I love the music, but anyway, so there was a lot of hype going for Batman vs Superman (BVS), and as a comic book fan, BVS in the book, it's huge. You don't just throw the names just like that.
Yeah.
Oh my god, those names are huge. It's like Britney Spears versus Christina Aguilera for anyone in the 90s.
Wow,
or Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC or Linkin Park. It's huge. You don't just throw the
they're
name.
iconic. They're iconic characters.
And in the recent times, I don't queue for movies. I really dislike queuing for food or anything. But this movie, well, I have some really gung-ho fans who wanted to watch it. And they dragged me to queue it with them on day one, so fine, I did it. And there were some DC fans who were really geeking out. I was geeking out because the hype was so big. And when I watched it, oh my lord. That was, I think, the only time I ever felt angry in the cinema, especially when, I don't know if this is spoilers or not, but spoilers warning, that Mata scene was just nuts. I really felt a burning rage in me when that scene played out, okay? I really felt angry, and I'm not someone who get angry often. I really don't. Not even when I disagree with politics or whatever else that happens in the world. But this was just nuts, man.
I can see some people hating that scene.
I hated that scene. Oh my god.
That was really... I don't know, is there a word worse than cartoonish?
I don't know. I felt like I was cheated. I felt like the filmmaker... sorry if this is too harsh, but I really felt like he felt the audience was stupid, and he felt like, yeah, sure, maybe I can get away with this, and he just did it. I mean, I don't know. Like I always said, even if you get an amateur writer just to think about it, to work on the script, I'm pretty sure someone out there along the way would have said, hey, maybe it's not such a good idea to say this, the Mata sequence. Oh my god. And right after that, Batman says to Superman's mother, hey, I am your son's friend. Oh god, after beating the life out of each another for 15 minutes, I just cannot. So that's my most hated movie.
Maybe Zack Snyder was like looking at the script. Okay, what is Superman's mother's name? Martha Kent. Wait, isn't Batman's mother's name Martha too? Oh, like Bob.
Oh god, no. I don't know lah. I mean, I'm sorry.
Genius.
I'm sorry if you like BBS, but I really can't. I can go on and on about certain scenes, about why it doesn't make sense in any way. I know I heard the director's cut. Delton watched the director's cut. A lot of YouTubers did, and they say it's way better. Yeah.
It's more cohesive than the theatrical.
There is still so much of it that does not make sense. I can really just break it down scene to scene, and oh god. Okay, so like I'm done. I just want to go on.
I can sense the rage from you, man.
Yeah, I cannot. I mean, that was the movie that made me feel like I'm never going to be cheated watching wasting 2 hours of my life ever again, because it's just ridiculous. I wasted 2 hours. I paid good money for a day one ticket and like a midnight show. Wasted my sleep. At 30 years old, sleep is really important.
Yeah.
So I just cannot be BBS. Yeah, so back to you. Your hated movie.
Okay, well, I have a lot of movies that I did not like.
Just one.
But just one, okay. This isn't the worst movie I've ever seen, but it definitely was the one that left me like you said, the angriest.
Yeah.
And that movie was A Good Day to Die Hard. That was because I mean, as Joey knows, I am actually a big 80s, 90s action movie fan. In addition to me being a very extreme cinephile.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Die Hard was like one of the pivotal action
Bruce
franchises
Willis,
of my high school. Like, you know, Bruce Willis, man, John McClane, you know,
Yeah.
the cop at the wrong place at the wrong time. He was an action icon. He was one of my movie heroes.
Like you always say, that was when Bruce Willis still cares.
Yes,
about what he
and
does.
I think that's an entire episode dedicated to that. But let's
Yes, I
not-
think we should do an episode about with him talking about 80s action movies today. we just go one by one with all the 80s
Yeah.
action and what they're doing with their career today.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to
yeah,
A
but
Good Day to
Bruce
Die.
Willis needs an episode by itself. But yeah. Anyways, back to Die Hard. So Die Hard 1, of course, one of the best action movies of all time.
Yeah.
You know. Die Hard
It
2.
is, really is.
Die Hard 2, underrated sequel. I know a lot of people hate that movie,
Yeah.
but I like it. I think it's also very well crafted.
Yeah.
Of course, Die Hard with a Vengeance, excellent sequel. Excellent sequel. I cannot say this enough. Please watch it.
Yeah.
Die Hard 4.0, or in America it's known as Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. I don't hate it. I don't think it's great, but it's like, it's harmless summer movie fun. It's PG-13, but John McClane in a way is still John McClane.
Yeah.
So when number 5 came out,
But,
like,
hold on. But before you go to number 5, before it goes downhill, I really want to show you how good Die Hard 1 is. I remember few months back, I had a very young couple that came in and they said, oh, they love action movies like John Wick because it's modern, right? And they're young.
Yeah.
So they really like John Wick. They watched The Raid, which is really impressive already. And so they asked me for a good action movie. They watched Terminator. They watched
Which Terminator? Because if you said
1 and 2.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So then they asked me for a recommendation for an action movie, and then Die Hard came to my mind, and I recommended Die Hard, and wow, they were mind blown. They were so
into it.
yeah, they were into it.
Nice.
They really said that wow, man, action back then and action now is so distilled when you compare it. Back then, I mean, I guess because they don't have laws or insurance to protect them, so they just couldn't. They just do whatever they wanted to do. They throw trucks, they blow things up for real. What is CGI back then? I mean, a broken bone is like, yeah, sure, it's part of the job. It's just insane. Yeah. So yeah, back to you
Yeah,
for number
so
5.
like Joey was saying, Die Hard 1 by itself is one of the greatest action movies of
Yeah.
all time. There's a reason why it's still being heralded to this day.
Yeah.
So when Die Hard 5 came out, I'm like, alright, I want to see John McClane's latest adventure. And I saw it in IMAX, by the way.
Gosh.
Yeah, I saw it in IMAX. Because
Double the pain.
It's Die Hard, you know, I'm like, I've
Yeah,
never
yeah, yeah.
seen
Yeah, you love Die Hard,
I
yeah.
wanted to see a classic 80s action franchise, the
Yeah.
next one, in the biggest screen possible, so I saw it in IMAX. And it was the biggest movie disappointment I've ever had.
Uh-huh.
Like, they treated John McClane like a direct-to-video Steven Seagal character.
No, not Steven
Uh,
Seagal.
yeah, I mean, Steven Seagal...
Another topic for another time.
That's another topic, but yeah, but that's... Like, Bruce Willis shouldn't be slumming it like this, man. He's better than this. What the hell happened to Die Hard? Why does this look like some direct-to-video crap fest? Look at the fucking shaky camera, the
Shaky camera
chop-
equals action
I know, every other major franchise is trying to be Jason Bourne, and they really flopped it up.
Yeah.
They messed it up. The action was so choppy. Some of it was nicely filmed. I'll give them that. Some of the stunts are good.
Yeah.
But the whole movie was a mess. There's no story. There's no villain. It was stupid. It was so stupid. The only person who looked like he was giving a damn was the music composer. That's the
I thought you were gonna say Bruce Willis, but
no,
no.
Bruce Willis also, some parts, yeah, I can see he's there, but he's like a shell of himself.
Yeah.
You know, only the music guy was like, okay, this is Die Hard. Let's
Yeah.
put in some classic Die Hard music there. I'm like,
He's
okay,
probably a big fan.
he's
isn't it?
trying his best to make
Yeah.
this a Die Hard movie. To some extent, he succeeded, but no, man, this is what happens when you just half-ass give the director of Max Payne and The Omen, the remake of The Omen,
Yeah.
the Die Hard 5 job.
As a gamer, the Max Payne movie was a memory I would want to delete if I can. Yeah, it's horrible. It really ruins the Max Payne.
John Moore, the director, he's made a movie I enjoyed as a guilty pleasure, the remake of Flight of the Phoenix. That one I enjoyed.
Okay.
But No, you killed Die Hard. Look, they're not even planning Die Hard 6 anymore. No.
Not yet. Not yet.
It's so disappointing when I walked out of the theater. I'm like, what the hell happened to this franchise?
See, if someone says they can't pick a movie that they hate, just push enough buttons and you get so much rage.
You want to tell them about the Die Hard collection? You left this outside.
Okay. Yeah. So in the independent cinema that I run, Emanic, we use Blu-ray discs. So when Delton donated his Die Hard collection to us to add to our library, so what we do is we keep all our Blu-ray discs in a separate folder so that it won't be stolen or any damage can be happen to it. But for Die Hard 5, we just left it in the Blu-ray cover because can't be bothered. I don't think anyone's going to watch it. I will never recommend it to anyone.
Use it as a frisbee.
Yeah.
Use it as a
like
frisbee or a coffee coaster.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just don't watch it. Please don't watch it. Oh my goodness.
Okay. We are almost to the hour mark, which is what I'm trying to keep the episode to, because anything in an hour I feel is a bit too long for a podcast. But I feel like, man, I prepared a few more topics to talk about and I really want
Part
to
two,
do
part
some.
two.
Yeah, of course, because I'm going to bring in other people here. And again, I would say everyone who comes on this show, you, the listeners, should have some context on why we like certain things or why we hate certain things. You just have to. You can't say you like or dislike something without the whys and the hows, because then what are we as a human race without, you know? So maybe you pick one and really fast without like the whole backstory.
Yeah.
One film you hope more people will see, or a film that you personally can relate to so strongly. One of these, just choose one.
I'll pick one movie which I want people to see more.
Okay, and what is it?
And I actually have like a list of it.
Just one.
Okay, just one.
Yeah.
Okay, there's this war movie, a very old war movie that came out around the same time as the third Rambo movie, and it was also about Afghanistan.
Okay.
Rambo 3 was about Afghanistan. That made $100 million.
Is it the tank?
Yes, you know.
Yeah.
So there's this. And I think it's one of the best war movies ever made.
Yeah.
We're talking about The Beast of War.
Yes.
1988. It was directed by Kevin Reynolds. He later made Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner and Waterworld. But I think this is his achievement.
Yeah, that show was
It is basically about a Soviet tank crew in Afghanistan. As they try to go across their mission. They trek across the desert in a hot sweltering tank, and tensions run high, psychological tensions run high, and one of them basically says, hey, what are we doing? We're not actually supposed to be doing this, it's cruel. And they beat him up and left him to die.
Yeah. And back then the Afghan war was
the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan.
Yeah. So and back then the whole terrorist stigma and all was still really high, and that show was great. I remember I watched it by accident, and from start to end I was just caught forever.
I think it's basically a very well done story about.
Great.
It's not just survival, but it's also about the endurance of the human spirit. How far are you willing to go before you can actually break?
Yeah.
And also, at the same time, there is mutual respect among the group of Afghans who rescued him, which is part of.
Really
I believe it's the part of the.
It's a very human story.
Yeah.
I mean, all good movies, books, or whatever. At the end of the day, it's about the human story.
There's no actual hero or villain in the movie.
No.
You know, like the guy, the tank crew is just following orders, except for possibly the leader who's gone insane. You know, but again, you put a normal man in that condition, you're bound to go insane. You know, it's shown from a different point of view. It's not about Americans. Technically, the actors are American, but they're playing, Soviet army crew.
And the actors are all not known actors. And
I mean, they're not known. Not to say they're.
I mean,
not
they're
known to
okay
say,
lah. But they did a sublime job.
Yes.
I remember I watched it and I'm like, wow, these guys are good.
Yes.
You really believe they are tank soldiers trying to survive. Just in case anyone didn't hear the name of the movie, what was it again?
The Beast of War.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched that, really, really good. For me, the one film I hope more people will watch, and I actually try to push a lot in Emanic, will be Mother.
Nice choice.
Starring Jennifer Lawrence and what's it?
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. This movie has got a bad reputation because it was marketed as a horror movie, and when you do that, you attract the mainstream audience. And it's not a horror movie. So when almost all of them who watched it, it hit them in the blind side because
Hit him like a brick.
it didn't bother explaining what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It started at 99 miles per hour and it doesn't stop. It just goes full speed and ups the gear.
It feels like the Darren Aronofsky who wrote and directed it. It's like he put his foot on the gas the moment the credits start and he didn't let go.
An example I like to give to my customers in M&A is that if they watch Black Swan or Requiem for a Dream, okay, Requiem for a Dream is very extreme really, but Black Swan will be a very easy entry level to Aronofsky, right? So when people who like Black Swan, I will tell them like, okay, Black Swan is like he did this and then the boss told him that okay, this is good. And then his next movie, the boss told him, okay lah, do whatever you want. And he really just did whatever he want. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, you watch the movie, all you get is question marks, exclamation marks, and exclamation marks, and more exclamation marks. It's like a ball of, my favorite explanation of Mother is a ball of what the fuck that just grows and grows and grows and it doesn't stop growing. It's just ridiculous.
Are you sure it's a ball and not a planet of what the fuck?
I don't even know what it is. Try not to go, if you're going to watch it, again it's called Mother with the exclamation mark, very particular with the spelling there's a reason for it. Try not to Google too much because if go in without knowing what it is. If you want, you can watch the trailer, I guess. But it's Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, they're really good. You know that you're going to get a solid movie. But if you know what it really is about, it kind of spoils the fun because guessing what the hell they're trying to say in the show is just part of the experience.
Moment, there's a certain moment in the movie, I saw this in a Singaporean cinema.
Okay.
And of course, 5 people walked out.
Yeah, people walked out in the hall. That's also another topic. We're going to talk about movies people walked out before in Malaysia. Yeah. Oh my god.
So in the middle of one scene, I didn't watch the trailer for Mother at all. I just only saw the poster. Like, what the hell is going on? So I just went in the theater. I went in blind and like, okay, I see what he's trying to do. You know, like I'm not gonna spoil anything, but if you've seen Darren's previous film, right before Mother, you will know what I mean.
Yeah. But of course okay, that would be another topic. When we talk about movies that you cannot spoil, because it's really hard to talk about a movie that you cannot spoil. So that's also another topic that I really want to do.
Yeah, we have to be very discreet.
We've had so many conversations about this. Oh my god, that it really should be talked about. So yeah, that's our 2 movies that we feel more people should watch. Again, it's The
Beast of War.
And mine will be Mother. And I guess this is where we will cut off the first episode.
Yay.
I haven't even thought about how I will end the episode. But yeah, if you want to maybe ask us to talk about a certain topic or a movie, just hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, on Twitter even. We are called CC Talk Talk, just in case you missed it at the very beginning. And yeah, we will get a mic so that the audio quality is much better than this. And let us know what else you think. Feedback would be good. I will always appreciate honest feedback. So that is it for this first episode. And I will say thank you if you actually listen for 60 minutes. We're going to do more. There's really just so much to talk about. Movies. And I'm going to bring in about games, about books, even TV shows. And it's not all the time about serious stuff. Sometimes I'm going to talk about Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles and what happened to it with Michael Bay and the old Ninja Turtles. So much. Comics even.
Aliens abduct Michael Bay, which made The Rock and put him in charge of making Transformers. That's one episode I'd like to talk about.
You're talking about Transformers. The new Netflix animated Transformers looks really good. Looks really good. It's a Gen 1 Transformers. Yeah, wow. Full on Gen 1 Transformers in cell shaded animation, like Borderlands. Something like Borderlands kind of cell shaded. Really good. And it's from if I'm not mistaken, the story is the same with a game that came out a few years back, and the game was beloved by the Transformers fans. It's called War on Cybertron or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a mini series that Netflix just launched, I think, last week. So I'm really looking forward to it, which is also something that I'll get my brother to come on to talk about because he loves Transformers. My God, I think if there's any hobby that he ever had, it would be Transformers. Even until today.
Is he going to talk about the Michael Bay ones?
No, because I think to him it doesn't exist. Unless he wants to troll me, and then he will say that. I mean, to me it doesn't exist, and I refuse to talk about it on this show. So
okay.
Yeah. So that's about it. I really hope that by the next time we come on again, we will have a mic and I figure out how to set it all up because, like I said, we have no experience doing this.
Oh yeah.
So good luck to me editing this, and I hope it won't be too painful on your ears to listen to.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you and goodbye.